go, Miss Vixen.
Fluttershy stroked the fox's head. When she tried to take her hoof away, the ostensibly wild animal pushed against her, urging her to continue her gentle ministration. Fluttershy smiled.
Your wound is healing nicely. You should be able to go home by the end of the week. Won't that be lovely?
The fox gave her an eloquent look.
Now.
Fluttershy chided.
You know that staying here indefinitely isn't an option. You need to go back. If you stay with me, you'll forget how to fend for yourself. The oath of mutual protection isn't meant to extend beyond my cottage and garden. It isn't the natural order of things, and that's important to maintain. Even if there are parts of it I don't like either.
She added in a sad mutter. A long time ago, she had been forced to accept that the roles of predator and prey were not something she could ignore or prevent in nature, however much she tried to at first. Her heartfelt wish was to take care of all animals in such a way that none of them needed to hunt each other in order to survive. But even she had come to accept that this simply wasn't tenable. She had tried for a long time, but months of trying and failing to halt the ceaseless cycle had threatened to break her, until she had accepted the unpleasant truth. Nature had created a pattern of life and death that she couldn't stop just because she hated the idea of her former patients becoming a part of it. In the end, she had compromised by creating an oath, which set up her cottage as a place apart from the natural order, where predators and prey agreed to leave each other alone until the day where they departed back to their real lives. The fox looked away. Fluttershy chucked her under her narrow chin, bringing her face around.
It may seem like the better option now, but trust me, when springtime comes, you'll want to go find a mate, which means going back to the wild. How would you feel if you couldn't feed your babies because you've grown too soft to hunt, or just plain forgot how?
The fox's ears snapped back. She chuffed low in her throat, staring deep into Fluttershy's eyes.
Oh, sweetie, I'm not asking you to like it, but I'm glad you understand.
Fluttershy could never explain to any pony else exactly how she communicated with animals. It wasn't magic, as such, but it wasn't the same as when she talked with ponies either. It was a strange combination of actual speak, body language, facial expression, and intuition that, once upon a time, Twilight might have wanted to strap her into a machine to test. The net effect was that Fluttershy arrived at a perfect understanding of even nonverbal creatures that she never really had to think about it. Perhaps some part of that was fear that if she picked apart her abilities and thought too much about how they worked, she would forget how to do them. But she preferred to think that she simply did not need to know the whys or the hows. What she did with her talents was far more important than how they functioned. The fox yawned, forcing Fluttershy to release her chin. The cottage wasn't as full as it had been in the past, though there were enough animals in residence that it had taken Fluttershy over an hour to feed and check them all. Mrs. Mouse's babies were snug in their nest, which only sat a few inches from a mass of straw and grass Miss Vixen had claimed as bed. The fox had not tried to eat them once. The parrot with the broken wing was nearly ready for a splint to be removed, and Fluttershy was fairly certain the crow who had been attacked by a desperate starving eagle was ready to be released. She would give him one more day to make absolutely sure he was recovered, then take him back to the spot where she had found him and...
Oh!
Someone knocked loudly on her front door. She wasn't expecting anyone. All of her friends were still at the hospital, and no pony else ever called on her. She sucked in a breath, wondering whether one of her friends was on the other side, bringing her terrible news about Pinkie Pie. She hurried to the door.
Coming?
Miss Vixen lifted her head. The birds on their stands hopped and chirped. Fluttershy felt something grab one of her hind legs. When she looked down, she saw Angel's tiny arms wrapped full around her fetlock. He shook his head, his meaning clear to her.
I have to answer it, Angel. It might be Twilight, or Applejack, or Rarity, or even Rainbow Dash.
She stepped forward. Angel was lifted off of the ground when he refused to let go.
Now, don't be a silly bunny.
She awkwardly raised her hind leg and stretched her neck to pluck him off by the scruff of his neck. Of course, as contrary as ever, he hopped straight off the chair on which she had deposited him. He followed her as she went straight for the door and pulled it open. It wasn't Twilight, or Applejack, or Rarity. or even Rainbow Dash.
Oh my goodness! Pinkie, what happened to you?
Fluttershy gasped. Pinkie stood on her hind legs, forelegs braced on either side of the doorframe as if to keep her from falling over. She was panting, her face scrunched with an effort of sucking in enough oxygen. More disturbing, however, were the red and black streaks dabbled across her coat and mane.
You're actually here. I wasn't sure you would be, but I had a feeling.
Her words dissolved into a hacking cough.
What in the name of Celestia are you doing here? You're supposed to be in the hospital.
All sorts of dreadful possibilities raced through Fluttershy's mind to explain why Pinkie was here and what was wrong with her. And she was standing up, albeit unstably, but hadn't the ponies at the hospital said she couldn't stand at all without tremendous pain?
Come inside, quick. Are you hurt? What am I saying? You're bleeding.
The animals in the cottage began to chatter at the scent of blood. Suddenly, Angel leapt up in front of Fluttershy, paws raised in a bizarre approximation of a martial arts pose. He glared at Pinkie Pie. She stared back at him blankly. Recognition clicked into place a few seconds later.
Oh, of course. Everyone's got a pet here, didn't they? There was only Dinah before. They didn't work out. Yes, I think the giant puppy was before. Not here. My pet here is
She seemed to ponder deeply.
a toothless alligator? That can't be right.
Pinkie Pie?
Fluttershy said warily. The setting sun didn't quite turn Pinkie into a silhouette, but it cast odd shadows around her face as she swiveled to look left and right inside the cottage, and then leaned back to gaze outside.
Your garden is so useful.
She exclaimed like it was a bad thing.
Where are all the flowers?
Flowers?
You have to have flowers. That's your thing. Or it was supposed to be. Not vegetables in a chicken coop. You don't keep chickens. That's not right.
Pinkie?
There was something very, very wrong with Pinkie. It wasn't just her staring eyes and the jagged edge to her voice, though those were strange enough. Fluttershy knew Pinkie was given to say things others didn't understand. She remembered all too well how miscommunication during the parasite incident had nearly ruined all of Ponyville. But this felt different. Pinkie herself felt different.
I think you should come inside so I can clean up all that blood. Hey, Pinkie!
Pinkie vaulted away towards the vegetable garden almost faster than Fluttershy's eyes could follow.
Wrong!
Pinkie dived among the tall leafy plants, only the top of her mane visible, as she began pulling them up and tossing them away.
It's all wrong! How could they get something so basic so wrong? No wonder this world needs to be fixed.
Pinkie Pie, please!
Fluttershy ducked to avoid being hit by the flying turnip.
Please, stop!
Why did they change it? It shouldn't be this way. Flowers, not vegetables. How difficult was that to get right?
Turnips were followed by carrots and potatoes, all still covered in clots of soil. They whizzed past Fluttershy, forcing her to take to the air to avoid them.
Pinkie Pie?
She called down.
Please stop ruining my garden. I need those vegetables to feed my animal friends.
Pinkie froze. She looked up at Fluttershy, eyes wide. There was something wrong with her eyes. But Fluttershy had no time to figure out what it was before they were rushing up towards her.
You can fly!
Pinkie pointed an accusing hoof at her.
So that's why I'm an earth pony. You got the wings instead of me. 2 unicorns, 2 earth ponies, 2 Pegasi. The perfect balance. Except that they gave the wrong one of us the wings.
Fluttershy gaped.
Pinkie Pie, you're flying.
It was an astonishing yet gruesome sight. Pinkie had wings. She had wings. It was not the first time Fluttershy had seen one of her earthbound friends flying, but these were nothing like the beautiful butterfly wings Rarity had worn in the Young Flyers competition. Some of Pinkie's feathers were brittle with dried blood, yet it was easy to see that her wings were not pink like the rest of her. Around her shoulders, flaps of skin and pink fur swung in time with each angry white flap. Yet if Pinkie noticed or felt any pain, she didn't show it in her expression.
I was meant to be the flyer. That was how it was meant to be. That's a big thing to fix. I mean, I'm the main character. Putting something so significant right.
She wrinkled her nose.
Yep, difficult. But I guess it worked because I have my wings back.
She twirled in midair, showing off the horrible things.
Oh my.
The words emerged in a horrified whisper. Fluttershy edged away.
Soon, everything will be the way it was meant to be.
Pinkie nodded, her left eye twitched.
You know, at first, I thought this was a mistake. You can't just replace one thing with another. Not when the universe is already established like this one. At the beginning, when things were still in flux and nothing had been decided yet, maybe it would have worked. But now, I thought they were crazy. But I guess the whole fourth wall thing was useful after all. I can see the big picture now. I didn't always understand what was going on, but glimpses are as good as staring contests.
Pinkie frowned contemplatively.
Or was it me who didn't always understand? Tch, I guess it doesn't really matter anymore. Me, other me, it's all the same difference now.
Pinkie, what happened to you?
Fluttershy asked. She had to find Twilight. This was obviously some kind of evil magic, a curse or a spell or something. Who or what could have done this to poor Pinkie Pie? Who would do anything to her? Every pony loved Pinkie Pie. The thought that someone would want to harm her was absurd.
I can see it all now. They have some very particular ideas about how things are meant to be. It took some doing for them to figure out how to make it all work. But you know what? It is possible after all.
Pinkie?
You see, it's all fictional. I'm fictional. You're fictional. The whole of Ponyville is fictional. Heck, the whole of Equestria is fictional. And fiction can be changed.
Pinkie's grin wrapped almost all the way around her face, like some hyperactive puppy's leash around a tree.
Twilight would understand. She loves books and words and reading and writing. The pen.
Pinkie stuck her hoof into the air dramatically, as if orating to a crowd.
Is mightier than the sword.
Fluttershy didn't understand. All she knew was that something was seriously wrong with her friend, and no matter how horrified or scared she was, her overwhelming compulsion was to try and help her.
The thing is, I was the problem.
Pinkie went on.
I required the most changes because I deviated so much from the original version of me. We're all problems, really. Just because something is fictional doesn't mean it isn't real. It's all gone too far, you see. We're in too many heads and hearts as the versions of us that we are now. The world beyond ours knows us too well as we are now. You can't just write that away. Nope, nope, nope. You have to make it work in context. You have to make the changes one by one. And that gets,
She plucked a piece of loose flesh dangling from her shoulder blade.
gooey.
Pinkie Pie?
I'm not even the right color. Can you believe that?
Her left eye twitched again. It didn't seem possible, but her grin stretched even further.
But I can fix that.
Fluttershy's stomach nodded as Pinkie reached behind herself and grasped one of the flaps of pelt and pulled. Like wallpaper, it peeled from her back before tearing off completely at the base of her wings. Pinkie examined it for a moment, then shrugged and threw it into the vegetable garden. She reached for another.
No!
Instinctively, Fluttershy shot towards her. She grabbed Pinkie's forelegs to stop them. Blood and black liquid smeared on her own hooves, but she forced herself to ignore it.
You mustn't!
But I'm not meant to be pink!
Pinkie protested.
It doesn't hurt. I told you, I'm fictional. Once I figured that out, everything else makes more sense. Fictional things can't feel pain, because the pain is fictional too. So it's not really real.
She sighed and shook her head.
It'll be so much better for them when they figure out they're fictional too. I wonder, someday, maybe someone from the world beyond theirs will make them understand too.
Pinkie, there's something seriously wrong with you.
Fluttershy swallowed the bile, threatening the back of her throat.
We need to get to Twilight. She'll know what to do. And she's at the hospital, which is even better. The doctors can take a look at your injuries and...
Oh, no. I just came from there. Besides, nobody remembers I was there anymore. It didn't suit the storyline for me to be in the hospital, so they fixed that.
They?
Fluttershy echoed helplessly. Pinkie allowed her hooves to remain held down, but Fluttershy was loath to take too firm a grip in case she hurt her friend. She was close enough, however, to see why Pinkie's eyes had looked strange before. They were the wrong color. But wrongness didn't stem from that. Their gaze seemed to be coming from a long way away, jittering from the distant place that Fluttershy couldn't reach. She looked unhinged. Pinkie tilted her head to one side.
They're the ones who've been putting everything back the way it was in the beginning. The way things were meant to be, before editorial mandate and copyright laws and all that stuff ruined everything. They're the ones with the words.
Pinkie, I don't understand.
Fluttershy tried, but failed to keep the tremble from her voice.
It wasn't as simple as they thought it would be. They don't think magic exists in their world. Boy, are they in for a shock when they figured that one out. It took them time and effort to even get this much right from what little they think they know. You can't change a world in one go. You have to change it in increments. Little itty-bitty chitty-chitty bang-bang pieces. One bit at a time so the whole shebang doesn't go, well, bang! See? The changes are good. Would I have known the word increments before? I don't think so.
Pinkie!
I mean, look! They're doing it right now!
She pulled a hoof free to point over Fluttershy's shoulder.
What?
Fluttershy followed the line of her hoof and gasped. Tiny black worms wriggled across the front of her cottage. They twined in and out of the honeysuckle and ivy, slipping in between the pieces of straw on the thatched roof. Some had linked up and quivered in place, while others continued to crawl towards each other.
In front of the pretty cottage is a lovely...
Angel was in the doorway, pointing and hopping up and down. Apparently he had been trying to get her attention for a while, but she had been too preoccupied to notice. Fluttershy released Pinkie and swooped to scoop him up. As her forelegs closed around him, the last black lines met, and the entire collection stilled.
Garden.
The word slid off the cottage, hovering for a moment in midair, and then shot towards the garden. When they met the sticks for the tomato plants, they exploded like a punctured balloon, spraying what looked like black ink over everything. Whatever it touched, vegetables withered and flowers bursted to life. Roses, daffodils, forget-me-nots, and dozens of others Fluttershy could not name erupted from her carefully planted furrows, submerging the ground in a riot of color.
The pen is mightier than the sword. See? Didn't I tell you? It's not perfect. They still need a helping hoof here and there, but they're putting everything back the way it was supposed to be.
Who is doing this?
Fluttershy begged.
Who are they?
She nuzzled Angel, taking comfort in his warm body and familiar smell. What kind of terrible magic was this?
The fans of the true version.
Was Pinkie's eloquent answer. As she spoke, she tore off another strip of flesh from her back.
It took them a long time. They had to work it all out, you see. They had to get past the fans who preferred the altered versions of us. Still, the true version will win out in the end. The creator wanted it this way, and they'll make her version a reality. You've seen the power of words firsthand now.
She pulled on a ragged piece of fur at her collarbone. It came away with a wet rip, as if she had been tearing the sleeve off an ugly dress.
Ugh. That's better.
Instead of bared muscles, underneath was white fur.
It smarts a bit, but it's worth it in the end. Don't you agree? As should be a sparkler would say. White is so in this season. Although, actually, she'll be blue. So, blue will be so in this season.
Please, Pinkie, stop hurting yourself.
Fluttershy begged.
But I'm not hurting myself. I'm fixing myself.
Another wet rip. Another sloppy impact on the ground below. Miss Vixen had limped out of the house along with several other animals. They sniffed at the pieces of pink and black and red. All of them growled and backed away again.
I'll have to clear those away when I'm done.
Fluttershy could do nothing as Pinkie pulled and tugged and ripped at herself. Neither could she leave. She hung in the air, almost forgetting to flap her wings. This couldn't be happening. This could not be happening. But it was. It really was. Miss Vixen snarled at the last thing to fall, the sticky detached face of a pink pony. Pinkie rubbed her white cheeks.
Oh, that's better. What do you think?
Fluttershy whimpered.
Aw, don't cry. You'll see. You think you like life as it is now? You'll love it when they're through setting things right. I know I do. In this world, I come from Cloudsdale, and my family talk to me, and I still get to be a baker and throw parties and have fun and everything. And you have a fan-dabby-doozy pretty garden, and you won't have to worry about flying anymore. And
She clapped her hooves together in a sudden thought and dove to the ground, disappearing amongst the flowers. Her disappearance broke Fluttershy from her trance. She whirled to her animals now gathered outside of her cottage.
Run! Oh, please run away, little friends.
They looked up at her in mute shock. She was throwing them out?
Run someplace safe. I'm going to go get my friends. My, other friends. They'll fix this. I hope.
She added in desperate silence.
Whatever this is.
Magic words and true visions and everything else Pinkie had said sloshed about in her brain like a soup of fear and panic. She flapped her wings, heading for the hospital.
oh, no, you don't.
A disapproving shape rammed her. Fluttershy let out of expelled air and dropped a few meters.
Angel, are you all right?
Shaking and showing little of his usual self-confidence, he nodded and burrowed into her chest. She tightened her hold on him and tried to fly on.
Don't you know it's rude to leave a party early? Especially a fix the world and make it better party.
A white missile came at her again. She twisted and shot past.
Hey, that's not fair. You ducked.
For the first time ever, Fluttershy regretted living outside of town. While the privacy and the proximity to her animals' homes was useful, she had no neighbors to hear her shout for help.
Pinkie, stop it! Please! You'll hurt Angel Bunny.
Whoopsie doodle!
Pinkie hovered in midair.
You better give him to me for the next part.
What?
Reflexively, Fluttershy's hold tightened further.
Well, you don't want him to fall, do you?
Pinkie said matter-of-factly.
Silly filly. I'll take him back to your cottage and make sure he's safe while we fix you.
Fix me?
Fluttershy's heart beat against her ribs like an attic-trapped bird.
Well, of course. Didn't I tell you they need a helping hoof when it comes to us? It's easy for them to change other ponies' minds about us so they know that we've always been the way we are. Or were. Or will be. Wow, that's a little confusing now that I think about it. Anyhow, it's not as easy with us. We're the main characters. If you want to change us, you can't just pretend the change is away. You have to make them happen so that everyone can see how much better they are.
Pinkie beamed.
It makes perfect sense.
It made no sense at all.
But the thing is, I'm the only one who can do the whole fourth wall thing. I can tell you we're all fictional, but you won't get it.
She shook her head, sadly.
You never did all the other times I did something to break it. So you feel pain because you think it's real. And I don't want that. You're my friend. That hasn't changed. Friends don't hurt each other. They help each other. And that's what I'm going to do to you.
Fluttershy closed her eyes, turned a sharp circle, and flew away as fast as she could.
Hey!
She knew Pinkie was chasing her. She was trying to escape one of her best friends in the whole world.
Please, some pony! Make this not be happening!
White wings.
I'm sorry!
Impact. She spun in a crazy spiral, trying to right herself, but another crash made it impossible. The best she could do was try and land without breaking anything, as Pinkie drove her to the ground. Fluttershy tried to run. That was even less successful.
Bonsai!
Pinkie leaped at her, limbs splayed. At a pool party, it would have been fun. Right now, it filled Fluttershy's heart with dread. She just had time to throw Angel from her before Pinkie landed on her. The little rabbit went rumbling, ears over tail, into the brush.
Good call!
Pinkie complimented.
Now, this might pinch a bit, but then all the pain will go bye-bye. And when you wake up, you'll be just how you were meant to be.
What? Ow!
Something sharp bit into Fluttershy's flank. It was followed by a warm spreading pain.
There now, that should do. Hey!
Angel had come rocketing back out of the brush and connected with Pinkie's head. She reeled backwards. Fluttershy staggered to her hooves. The world swam. Everything inside and outside of her head was a tilted carousel, spinning around in a blur of colors and textures. She fell to her knees, struggled to get up, failed and slumped to her side. The hypodermic stuck straight up from her flank, like a flag claiming a piece of land.
Now that's not very nice.
She heard Pinkie exclaim, but her voice sounded like it was coming through deep water.
You're part of the story too, Bunny Bunny Bun Bun. They don't like your slapstick stuff.
What?
The whole world skewed beneath Fluttershy, and she slid off the edge into darkness. Rainbow Dash had stamina in spades. A lifetime of training regimens, crazy workout schedules, and a desire to prove herself as more than just a flight school dropout had hardened her muscles, sharpened her focus, and left her with the endurance of a small tank. However, it wasn't just stamina that kept her going as she neared Ponyville. Her nerves were still jangled at what she had discovered about the Pie Rock Farm, and her head had not stopped buzzing as she tried to figure out what was going on. She wished she had had some sort of gut feeling she could follow. Her intuition sucked, and she possessed no equivalent to Pinkie sense. All she could do was think up possible explanations that each seemed less and less possible.
Aliens?
She thought, dismissing her latest idea out of hoof even as it formed in her mind.
No, that's just plain stupid. How about... Huh? Wow!
She flared her wings and braked hard as a parrot flew past her face.
The heck? Watch where you're going, buddy!
The parrot clacked and whistled, turning in small circles in front of her.
Boy, are you lost?
Rainbow Dash observed.
Parrots don't like it in the Everfree.
Though flying too low in Everfree airspace was risky, she had elected to go that route for expediency. The faster she got the news of the rock farm to Twilight, the faster the world could start making sense again. This situation might even merit the princess's involvement. The parrot squawked once more. Frantic cawing made Rainbow Dash duck before she was blindsided by an equally noisy crow that joined the parrot in its circling. The parrot flew drunkenly, as if its wings weren't working properly. In fact, a piece of mostly unwrapped bandage trailed from the left one. Rainbow Dash narrowed her eyes.
Hey, didn't I see you two at Fluttershy's cottage last week?
She didn't really take much notice to Fluttershy's changing roster of animal patients, but she was almost sure that there had been a parrot amongst the birds in the stands. The parrot whistled triumphantly. Evidently, she had got it right. It turned in another small circle and dived for the ground. They didn't do anything as convenient as speak exactly the right words to tell her what they wanted, but their meaning was still clear.
You want me to follow you, huh?
Rainbow Dash muttered. She glanced at the light-spangled bulk near Ponyville. Night had finished falling while she made her return journey, and houses lit up by enchanted lamps looked like something from a watercolored painting. Below her, not far beyond the edge of the forest, Fluttershy's cottage was also lit from within.
Huh? Fluttershy's home from the hospital?
A thought hit Rainbow Dash.
Or did some pony break in while she was out?
Fresh anger erupted inside of her, eating up her frustrations with the prospect of something she could understand and could deal with.
If they have, I'll kick their butts until they're a brand new shape!
She folded her wings and dived. The burst of cawing and whistling in her ears nearly knocked her off course. She alighted with some of her dignity left and turned to give the two birds a piece of her mind, stopping when she spotted Fluttershy's garden. She had let it become completely overgrown, which was weird because she was usually so neat and tidy about her vegetables. Rainbow Dash didn't know one thing about growing food, saving the tip she had picked up about fruit trees from hanging around Applejack. Did plants grow that fast when you left them alone? The door to Fluttershy's tool shed stood open. That was weird too. Fluttershy always locked it in case some animal wandered in and accidentally licked the bottles of weed killer she kept in there. That wasn't the only door ajar. The front door to the cottage was open too. Rainbow Dash quietly pushed it open, pausing in case some pony was hiding inside. Though crime in Ponyville was almost non-existent, the local newspaper was full of stories of Manhattan and Glasgow, where it was much more prevalent. Fluttershy lived far enough out of town that it wasn't out of the question that some pony might be dumb enough to try and bogle her. No pony jumped out. Rainbow Dash stepped inside, being careful to avoid the creaky floorboards 2 feet over the threshold. The living room was dark. The light she had seen came from the kitchen, judging from the soft yellow glow under the closed door. She crept towards it, wondering why the cottage felt so off. Realization struck her when she was halfway across the room. The place was silent. Where were all the animals? A soft squawk and the skitter of claws caught her attention. She turned, eyes growing accustomed to the extra deep gloom of the cottage interior. The parrot and the crow perched on the back of the couch. Next to them stood a tall golden bird cage that Fluttershy used to contain jumpy little birds that would otherwise fly off and exacerbate wing injuries. Fluttershy often fought with herself over whether it was right to use the cage, and tried to avoid it whenever she could talk to birds into staying put instead. Right now, it contained one very anxious white rabbit.
What in the name of Celestia?
Rainbow Dash hurried over. Angel's foot on the floor of the birdcage had been causing the thumping. Fluttershy would never put her precious angel bunny in a cage, not even when he was being the most obnoxious. Angel stuck a paw through the bars, jabbing it in the direction of the kitchen door. His face, which Rainbow Dash had seen so often screwed up in a tempered tantrum, was now twisted with worry.
What's going on here?
She wondered as she unlocked the filigree door. Angel leapt onto her head, sprang from there to the floor, and cannoned towards the kitchen. He literally threw himself at the door, battering it with all four paws.
Who's there?
Called a voice that made Rainbow Dash's mouth drop open in shock.
Pinkie Pie?
She said without thinking.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs.
The unmistakable voice trilled.
You're a little early to the party. Just give me a minute.
Rainbow Dash trotted to the door. Angel continued to hammer on it. He jumped for the doorknob, but it was just out of his reach.
Pinkie? What's going on? Why aren't you at the hospital?
Just a minute.
Pinkie repeated, ignoring the question.
Pinkie!
With a grunt, Angel managed to hook both front paws around the doorknob, suspending himself in midair. Pressing his hind legs against the wood, he twisted his whole body. The door clicked open and swung inwards. There was a crystalline moment in which Rainbow Dash's mind attempted to reject what she was seeing. It contradicted everything she knew so thoroughly that her thoughts closed in on themselves, forming a protective barrier of denial. For that frozen moment, all she could register were snapshots that refused to form a coherent whole. Purple balloons, pink hair against wood grain, an open sewing kit, the metallic gleam of red in the lamplight. And then, all at once, the entire scene snapped together. Her mind caught up with her eyes, and her gorge rose in her throat.
Oh well.
Pinkie sighed. Except it couldn't be Pinkie. Pinkie wasn't white. She didn't have green hair, and she definitely wasn't a Pegasus. Yet the pony standing in the middle of the room had her voice and posture. When she spread her hooves and jumped up and down, she moved with the same inimitable manic energy as Pinkie. When she yelled, she reminded Rainbow Dash of when Pinkie had thrown her a thank you for going with me to see my family party.
Surprise!
Angel raced between Rainbow Dash's hooves towards the pony slumped in the chair, her torso across the kitchen table.
Sweet Celestia.
Rainbow Dash breathed as the last piece of her brain accepted this impossible piece of reality.
I kind of thought I'd be all done and dusted here before I got to you. I still have to clean up. It's not nice to make a mess in someone else's home and not clean up after yourself.
Fluttershy's face was drawn. Her chest rose and fell, but she was clearly out cold. Otherwise, the crudely stitched lumps on her back would have caused more than a mere frown. One of the bony burnt lumps twitched as her eyelids flickered. She was coming around. Her body was trying to flap wings that were no longer there. On her flank, someone had cut around the 3 pink butterflies, turning them into 3 red-streaked flowers instead. Not Pinkie wasn't holding the knife, but she might as well have had it in her hoof. Not Pinkie bounced in place.
I told her that they needed a helping hoof. Personally, I think Should-Be Posy looks better as an earth pony.
She gave another deranged giggle.
And when she wakes up, she'll be Posy all the way. Once the body changes, it's easier to get the mind inside.
She spun around, waggling her wings.
After all, I'm a living proof. I had started growing wings and have holes put into my bones so I knocked her out so she wouldn't feel anything.
A set of gardening shears were visible in the sink. A metal spatula rested in the flames of a ring on a hob. Yellow feathers stuck out from under a trash can lid. She had cut off Fluttershy's wings and thrown them away like garbage. Rainbow Dash only had to flap twice to smack straight into the other Pegasus and pin her against the wall. Air left Non-Pinkie's lungs in a giant whoosh that threw back Rainbow Dash's mane. Her breath smelled like candy.
That was a pretty good surprise.
Non-Pinkie wheezed.
Didn't see it coming.
Who are you?
Rainbow Dash snarled.
Why did you do this to Fluttershy?
Not Fluttershy.
Not Pinkie shook her head.
Posy. Just like she originally planned. I'm just helping them make our vision our reality.
She? They? What are you talking about?
Can't breathe.
Rainbow Dash eased off enough to let the other mare speak.
Who are you?
Don't you recognize me?
Not Pinkie looked sad.
Of course not. You're not fixed yet. You still think you're dashy.
What?
It won't be so bad for you. You're just a palette swap. And a new cutie mark. Well, newish. Since you already have a lightning bolt. You and Twilight are lucky that way. Applejack is the luckiest, though. All she had to do is lose that hat of hers. Although, I guess for her, that is like losing a limb. I was the toughest to pull off. Palette swap and a different race. But as you can see, they did it in the end.
Who are they?
Rainbow Dash demanded.
And who are you? Why did you do this?
She wanted to gesture at Fluttershy, but didn't want to release her hold.
For the fans.
What?
And they did it for her. They love her. She was so upset when she had to leave the project. Though she had lost most of her creative control by the end anyhow. That's how this whole problem started, you know? Her losing her creative control, and others making decisions that contradicted what she'd planned. The fans just wanted to make her happy again, by making us what she originally planned. It's kind of sweet, when you think about it.
What?
Not Pinkie shook her head and sighed indulgently.
You don't get it yet. Should be Firefly.
Despite Rainbow Dash pinning her forelegs, she tried to use one to point upwards.
But you will soon.
Huh?
Rainbow Dash raised a quick glance and froze. The words peeled off the wall above them, pausing in midair just long enough for her to read before they dropped and exploded over her in a wash of ink and destiny.
The fastest pony in Equestria is Firefly. She is pink and fearless, and danger is her life. She is Lauren's favorite pony. So all the ponies lived happily together in the wonderful land where animals talked, magic was real, and no bad things ever happened that friendship couldn't fix.